He left for more money, right?
The following presentation is brought to you by the Pride of ODU, the official NIL collective of Old Dominion Athletics. Be a monarchist. Join the Pride.
What's up, fellas? Long time no speak. Get those headphones in, Gary, because we need you to be able to hear everything.
Yes, they got blown out with that intro music, so I had to rip them out real quick.
What's happening, Mike?
Just living the dream, man.
Yeah, you guys watching this game right now?
How you doing?
Kind of getting out of hand.
I have not since we came in the other room, but I figured it might get a little out of hand.
Yeah, 28-7. So, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. We got all kinds of good stuff in store. We're going to talk a little bit about the website. Actually, we'll talk a lot about the new website, theprideofodu.com. It is new, revamped, and much better than ever. We'll talk about collective in general, answer some questions, put out some good stuff. And then we're going to talk football. So really looking forward to bending your ears, your brains, Mike and Gary, and talk football and take fan questions. And then, after that, any questions that fans have about whatever ODU related. Obviously, basketball is, we won't call it a hot streak, but both teams are playing well right now. So how's it going, guys? What do you want to start us off, Mike?
Well, hey, new website launched not long ago. Happy New Year, G5 Hive. And if you haven't noticed, you need to be a member to get to watch any of our videos on there. And we're doing this as a way to help boost membership in the collective and offer it as a perk to collective members.
Oh, you were leaning in. I didn't know you were coming to me. So, that's kind of a multi-pronged approach. So, if you are a member of the collective right now at any level, you log into the Pride of ODU, and any of that video content is going to be accessible by you immediately. As time goes by, we'll develop more stuff where there will be exclusive content, there will be free content, depending upon your level of membership or lack thereof. Be there. But we will maintain our other channels out there, obviously our social media channels, which you may be listening to right now, whether it's X or Facebook or YouTube channel. And then that content, after a specific period of time, may become accessible to everybody on those other channels. Obviously, in the next few months, Gary, you guys that have watched Hudson Homers or listened to Hudson Homers, because it wasn't video before, but that will be a little bit different. Is that's going to go to the website. You're a collective member, you can watch everything from a one-stop shop, but that will drop everywhere, because that's going to be our biggest platform for getting the word out on Dollars for Dingers and reaching all the fans and stuff like that. So make sure you're following us on all those channels. Website-wise, Mike, what other things do we want to talk about the website? Let's let folks know how they can consume all of the content, whether it's paywalled content or free content.
All right, so there's 3 Monarchist pages on the new website.
You want me to show it, Mike?
Yeah, first one is the Monarchist podcast library.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me get this bad boy up here. All right. So if you go to Monarchist at the top, and you go to Monarchist podcast library and click there, you don't want to look at our faces, but you got them there.
But what you'll see here is each show has their own section on the webpage. And each one, if you want to go back and listen to the old episodes, the archive is there for you to access as well. It's an audio archive. So if you prefer all video, you need to go back to YouTube. because I wasn't going to load in every single video we've ever done on this website.
It's a lot of
It
them.
takes a lot of work to do that. But yeah, every episode we've ever done is on this page in video or audio form.
Awesome. All right, where do you want me to go next, Mike?
The second tab is recruiting. Now, these are a lot of one-on-one interviews with recruits, but as we move forward, it's going to develop into a lot more. We've had conversations with the basketball staff, women's basketball staff, and the football staff about recruiting in general and what we can share with fans and how we can kind of grow that offering. There are some recruiting Q&As that are on the last tab, and that's kind of been done as a perk so far. We're putting them out for free, but they may move to the recruiting tab, which is paywalled. So yesterday we put out a new article with Dawson Johnson, the tight end transfer from Florida. You can read that here. It's free and open to everybody, as is the churn and recruiting page. But here's where you're going to find all of David's articles that he puts out, as well as the churn and just other recruiting written content. So latest news is all blog content.
Lots of great stuff there.
I will add, we have been putting out the audio podcast the same day as the video podcast on this tab. And this allows anyone to listen to them because these audio podcasts are not paywalled.
Good deal.
So if you want to join, we'd love to have you. But if you don't, you still have an option to listen to the show first day it launches for free.
All right, Mike. I know a lot of people have asked about where they can buy merch from the collective. Shirts, pullovers, hats, those sorts of things. We've got that now, right?
We do. And it's some pretty slick stuff. There's a lot of cool like fleeces and pullovers, something that all ODU fans have been looking for and have never been able to find. But it's got the Pride of ODU logo on it, and they look fantastic.
Whether you like polos, fleeces, pullovers, whatever, a little bit of everything there. And eventually you'll see some of our gear on there as well, I believe. We're just not there yet. And then some folks have asked, like, hey, if I'm a member of, so I think most of the items on this page are accessible for anyone to purchase. But there are currently some items that under that shop tab, under the VIP store, are for collective members only, and this is only going to grow. Right now, you've got three helmets, one from Koa, one from Zach, and one from Ricky, signed, autographed helmets, mini helmets that are available. Obviously, the net proceeds after cost are going to the collective, supporting those sorts of things. And this VIP store will only grow, but you have to be a member of the collective. So if you were to click on Koa, you want to get Koa's helmet, you can buy it right through here. You'll log in with your username and your password for the collective, and you're able to make that purchase. I would say if there are items that you really are interested in, if you're a collective member and you're interested in, get us that feedback. We get that feedback to the collective to help grow this this section of what might become available if we know what the demand is. You want to talk membership a little bit, guys?
Yeah, so it's pretty easy to join now, and the beauty is the minute you join, you're connected to all of this content. So if you're a member from before the new website, all you need to do is I think you just sign up. I think you just log in with your email account, and it will immediately connect to your membership. On top of that, membership options are varied. So we have a base membership I think it's $12 a month now.
That's correct.
That's the former 757 club. That was raised because we were actually losing money on the 757 memberships in the old system. So we raised it to a point where we can make like $1 per member. It's not a lot, but it gives you access to everything that we're offering here, as well as some future perks that the collective will be, like events or other things that we might be doing in the future. We've had discussions about maybe doing some live streams with coaches that would be available on the website, but you would need to be a member.
And if you feel like making, whether you're a current member, you're a future member, or not a member at all, you can make a one-time contribution. So if you don't want to sign up for a recurring membership, which we hope everyone wants to, but you do have the ability to do that at a one-time contribution. Let's say that you get a big bonus at work and you want to do something like that, this would be the place to go to. So yes, obviously, as we get into talk about football, one of the big items has been obviously the portal and the collective and NIL. And fortunately, we've navigated those waters fairly well this year. And the collective is a big reason about that. But we need to continue to grow our fan base who are members of the collective. So this is the place to be able to do it.
And I want to reiterate, from the beginning, we've always given out the money we get paid. We've donated it back to the university, donated to Toys for Tots. That has not changed. We are continuing to donate whatever we receive, once we cover our cost, back to ODU and Toys for Tots. So that will not change.
And Rebecca, we agree. The website looks great. We appreciate the comment. Thank you. All right, you guys want to talk football, or we got more website collective stuff to talk about?
Well, I want to ask the listeners, maybe they can respond. Anyone who's not a member, if you have any qualms about joining, maybe share those issues with us now, and we can talk it out.
Yeah, so if you got a question, just type it into as a comment wherever you're watching, whether it's YouTube, X, Facebook. Throw it in there, and we will answer them as they come in. But in the meantime, maybe Mike, let folks know, or Gary, let folks know that there is football content currently going to the website some more, and what might they see over the next couple weeks from David.
So David's got 2 articles I know he's working on. One is the coaching carousel. I'm not sure when he's going to launch that one, but then he has one coming out tomorrow, and I already forgot the topic of that.
Was it an offensive preview? Way too early?
Oh, yeah. He's looking at the offense. It's way too early, in my opinion. He calls it the way too early look. But with so much, we have spring ball left. We haven't even started spring ball. There's also going to be a very active portal period after spring that could change the look of our roster considerably as well. So I don't know. It's a little too early for me, but it's football content. It's always good.
All right. So G5 Hive asks, last week there was some discussion on all G5, all conference teams and awards, and maybe they should not do that moving forward because it becomes the shopping list for the P4. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
They know that shopping list long before any of those things get announced and released. Most of those guys have probably been contacted before those awards are even announced. So I think you still got to do the list. You still got to celebrate those guys and shout them out. But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think everyone that made a all Sunbelt list got poached or they're out of eligibility. Was that right?
That's right.
So that should be some motivation for a lot of guys on these teams, especially at ODU, because I don't know if we had anybody on those lists of like, all right, everyone that made that list is now gone. It's wide open for you to become one of the best players in the Sun Belt. And that could mean you could go to a Power 5 school the following year. Like, it sucks for ODU and App State and all the other teams to get impacted by it. But that should at least motivate guys to work really hard this offseason and then come in the next year ready to roll and perform well, because if you do, you can be rewarded. And then as a byproduct, as ODU fans, we get winning football. So it's the trade you have to make these days to stay competitive. But I will gladly take, like, if there's 6 or 7 names on that list from ODU and it's because we're playing the Sun Belt Championship game, I'll make that trade on a year-to-year basis.
Yeah, that's a great problem to have.
It looks like Koa is probably our highest awarded player this last season. He was on second team all Sun Belt defense.
Speaking of linebackers, Greg's got a question of Jason Henderson. What are you guys thinking?
As of right now, the plan is for him to come back and return and be a Monarch. But we'd all love to hear it from Jason instead of me, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it would be nice to have him back fully healthy. I mean, we had a pretty strong defense last year, and he only played, limited time at South Carolina. I don't think you're a worse defense by putting him back in the mix. That's for sure.
I mean, so right now, let's just, without Jason, all right, your linebackers there. Let's talk linebackers, and obviously we'll add Jason to that mix, because you bake a better cake if you've got a
linebackers for Old Dominion. We're returning every starter in this portal period. Mario's coming back for a 3rd year right now. Koa's coming back. Jaleel Culberth is coming back. We should count ourselves lucky for a unit as active and productive as they are to return all 3 of them.
So Jason comes back. You just add that to the mix. You've got a crew that you can just keep fresh and not have a drop off, no matter who's in there.
Yeah, that's the really interesting thing is Koa obviously had an amazing year. And how do you manage those snaps if you have Jason and Koa on the team?
I mean, I think it makes sense to load balance there, because we saw last year, I mean, how many linebackers did we lose to injury, and relatively early in the season too? I mean, Jason was the first one to go down, but he wasn't the last. So I think the more depth and the less tread you put on those tires, the better, because let's be honest, in our defense, the linebackers are going to make the tackles. I mean, that's why you see those crazy high tackle totals. It's just the design of the defense. And you start getting in that 100, 125 tackles range, that's putting your body through a lot. So I would love to not see anyone on our team eclipse 100 tackles next year, because we're able to rotate and keep that quality high. Because, I mean, at one point, I think we had more linebackers on the sideline street clothes than we did available and padded up.
Yeah, that'd be great. All right, G5 Hive is asking if they have said when spring practice will start.
I haven't asked.
I have not gotten that date yet, but I imagine we'll probably hear something next week when they start setting the rest of the spring schedule.
Not soon enough, right?
I don't think they'll be able to pair it with a home ODU baseball game, but maybe they could pair it on one where they're going to be at Harper Park. Usually that's it. You go to the spring game, you go over to baseball. That'll be a unique situation this year.
Another topic on the linebackers. We signed a really good linebacker from Ocean Springs, Mississippi, Keyshawn Thomas. He's a JUCO. He's going to play. So we're adding, and we got Jaden Shepard too, who's going to be a bandit. Both had a lot of good offers. So it's going to be really, you're adding depth to a unit that was already really productive, but like Gary said, was dealing with injuries. But they're going to be in an even deeper unit next year than they were this year.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing, because they may be plugging some holes on the defensive line, because we definitely lost a lot of production up front with Denzel and Amori and Jalen heading out. So there's going to be some new faces on the defensive line, but being really strong at linebacker and bandit is going to help cover any time needed to get those new guys up to speed up front.
And thankfully, because of Diego Pavia, our losses on the line aren't as bad as they should have been. Ricardo Williams gets another year, and he is back That's a huge addition or re-addition to the program. Having him back with his veteran presence, he was very productive for us last year as well. And then, from what I've been told, they are very high on DeAndre Lynch. And if you look at his PFF numbers, you kind of understand his win. He had one of the highest win rates on the team. So I don't know. It's hard to lose a guy like Denzel, but there are some dudes ready to contribute.
Hey, Mike, before we jump to the next topic in football or whatever, do you want to let folks know who might not know about the football roster churn and the recruiting page? I don't know if we talked about where those are specifically, but people have questions on all the stuff you guys are talking about, where they can read about it.
So if you go to the website, prideofodu.com, click latest news. Under there, you'll find both the churn and the recruiting page. The churn is really just, it tells you who's leaving and who's coming in and the pure numbers of it all, including who's a walk-on and who's not. And then
you've really got it broken out by guys who are scholarship players, people who are a walk-on. You really try to put some good context to let folks know the comings and goings and kind of.
Well, yeah, I think it's important to know, like, when you have 40 plus guys leaving, how many of them are walk-ons? Those guys are here not getting scholarship money, and they're just doing it for the love of the game. Some of those guys are going to leave to find scholarships. But it's good to know who has a scholarship and who doesn't when we're talking about this churn in general.
And what's cool of how this is built out is you've got hyperlinks on each of these guys. Y'all were talking about Dawson Johnson's as tight end coming in. It'll take you to, whether it's an X post or it's an article. Or it's
on the churn, it's all their announcements, essentially.
Okay, gotcha. And then you're talking about the recruiting page. I've got that right here for you. It's like you're showing the latest update right there at the top. So, and that was some good feedback from one of your readers that was asking, hey, when I log on, because I come to this regularly, it'd be nice to know what's changed recently. So you've got when that was and what it was. And then you go through all the high school, JUCO, transfer portal, lots of great stuff here.
Yeah, I've tried when I can talk to the staff about these guys. I try to remember what they told me and share that. So if you look at the bottom where the transfers are, there's a little bit more information that you're going to get on those guys because of those conversations.
Yeah, I think breaking it out that way helps put the overall perception of the portal into a little bit better perspective too. With a lot of the guys that are in the portal, you see like the massive list of names. A lot of them are non-scholarship guys. Like you add the walk-ons with the number of guys that are cut, but we'll never know if they were cut or not. Like that's the majority of the portal. Like the ones you're getting the stories on are, of course, the big names that are going places for big money and whatever that may be. But
or promises of big money.
Yeah, very much the promises of big money. But the majority of that bulk, that volume you see in there are just guys looking for a place to play on scholarship. Like they want to continue playing, they get cut from their team. That's their only avenue to go find a new place to stay. I know we've had guys at ODU a lot over the years that have ended up in that position. So understand that portal is not exactly what it appears sometimes or what some would lead you to believe it says.
All right, guys, we got a question of what positions do you think are still a priority for portal guys to bring in?
Priority number one is offensive tackle.
And why is that important?
Well, you had a guy like Santana Saunders graduate. On top of that, Zach Barlev is a guard. I mean, he played well at tackle for us, but he has a chance to play in the NFL with the way he's playing, and he's not going to play in the NFL at tackle. So he needs to be a guard next season. So you need to go get a tackle so he can make that move.
Yeah, I agree with you. Any additional experienced O-line depth is critical. Like, we have a lot of offensive linemen on the roster, and I think their focus has got to be to develop because there are positions for them to go win. But we kind of banked on that last year, and it bit us a little bit, especially early in the year. Like, some guys were just not ready to jump into that starting role against good defensive lines that we have in the Sun Belt and in South Carolina and Bowling Green and all those places. So, I mean, I think you got to be shooting your shot with every decent offensive lineman that goes in the portal between now and the end of the spring window.
So before we move to the next position group that you guys think is a priority, I mean, offensive line is obviously important for every single football team in the country. But in the particular scheme that Coach Decker and Ricky run, like, why is it even more important here? Or why is it just as important here?
You got to protect the quarterback. And bringing Colton back, and we have Quinn Hennicle back, two quarterbacks with very high ceilings. You don't want that ceiling to get lowered because they got a nasty injury. We also value running the ball. You can't run the ball without a good O-line. The better we can make our O-line, the more dangerous our offense is going to be. And if we want to hit those marks that will get Ricky an extension, you need a line to do it.
So does having a quarterback like Colton or Quinn who have the ability to run the ball make it easier on your offensive line, or does it make it more difficult, or does it even matter?
It makes it easier, assuming they don't run too far down the field and get you a legal man downfield. But yeah, it makes it easier. There was a Stats Award put out a chart recently that shows how often a team runs and how often on one axis, and the other axis was how often they have RPO or play action. And the higher the percentage of both, the easier it is for the offensive line. Because if you're moving the D tackles, the D line has to figure out where you're going. It makes it easier on the offense to kind of gain that leverage and make sure they have the time to throw.
And if you can establish the run, you put some hesitation in the defense of pinning their ears back for big pass rushes, big blitz, which then makes it even easier for the offensive line in obvious passing downs where they don't have to, worry about 7 guys and disguises and all of that. So if you build with some run blockers, it's a little bit easier to pass block if you can do it effectively. I mean, I think we saw that at Arkansas State the last year, right? Like, we probably didn't think we were going to throw the ball a whole lot in that game. And Quinn ran a really nice running-based offense. And when they put 9 in the box, Quinn hit him right over the top for some big passing plays. So I think that's kind of the right formula, I think, for us next year, because I don't think we were able to establish that the first 3-4 games of the season. And you start thinking about all those close losses from, like, having to throw it too much, giving up too many sacks, pressure causing turnovers. Like, that cost us from going to a bowl, potentially cost us from winning the East. So, I mean, it's got to be just pushing all your chips in for offensive line to protect the really good skill position players we have now.
Before we move off of offensive line, Greg's got a question about our first Monarchist NIL athlete who we were able to support last year, Elijah Hoskin. Any updates on his injury? I have not heard anything.
Yeah, I haven't asked.
Team still doesn't give out injury information, even in the offseason.
Yeah.
I think take a look at him during spring ball and see if he's on the field, on the sideline, what equipment's he's still wearing. I would think that he would be able to come back in the fall, given when the injury occurred.
We have talked to Elijah about maybe doing a podcast with him.
It's actually a pretty fun concept.
Yeah, we're still working it out, and hopefully it happens, but no promises right now. I think it would be a great show, but until it's real, it's not.
Yeah. All right, so moving off the offensive line, what's the next position group of importance to address during the portal period?
So we've done well with tight end, getting a really talented tight end out of high school. Plays at one of the best high school programs in the country. And then we got Dawson Johnson, the walk-on transfer from Florida, from Colorado. He's a big-bodied guy that will be able to play next year for us. And we have Jalen Butler returning. But I think you need to add another tight end or two to make sure you have that depth. Because last year we didn't have the depth at all. Luckily, we had the toughest dude on the planet playing tight end for us.
Yeah,
But it would be nice to not be in that position where if that guy does get hurt, he can take some plays off or take a game off and let other guys contribute so they can get better. I don't want to be in the position we were last year at tight end.
We might have to start up a NIL fund to buy duct tape for Justin Walker and his crew to hold someone together, because I don't know how Pat Conroy did that this year. I mean, talk about the most Iron Man of Iron Men.
And then the other position I'm looking at right now is center. We don't have a clear center in the starting lineup right now. They're going to try different guys this spring, but I imagine they'll try and go get someone in the spring portal, where we were very active last year in the spring portal. That's when we grabbed guys like Peanut Houston. So I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I wouldn't be that surprised if like maybe a Colin Henrik was playing center next year for us. But it's going to be interesting to follow that position and what they do with it.
Well, Gary, how difficult is it for a guy? Because all offensive linemen are not created equal. Some guys are multi-tool kind of guys that can move along the line. But is center a little bit of a unique position where it's harder for guys to do that because of responsibilities they have in making calls?
Absolutely. I mean, you're running the protections up there. Everything keys off of you. I know ODU fans have seen us with not great center performance at some point in the past couple years, and you can see the problems that it caused, but just within the snaps, the protection calls, and things like that. But that center position is so different from like guard and tackle. It's like almost the difference between a middle linebacker and like a safety. So of the things that you're worried about, the things that you're doing, your footwork is different. And then, in the Sun Belt, we face a lot of guys that'll line up the biggest dude you've ever seen in your life right on top of the center. So you have that to deal with on top of everything else, and they're trying to just plow you over. I honestly wouldn't hate to see if Barlev was able to go back to center, because we picked up guards and tackles in the portal or guys on the team have stepped up to become that starting caliber, and he can move back. Because I think, from a football IQ standpoint, he's definitely someone I would want over the football every single play.
And they picked up a really talented interior lineman. I think his name is Ryan Joyce from Fordham. He started 3 years there. He's a captain at Fordham. He's going to play guard for us. So that would allow us to move Barlev to center if that's what they want to do.
Yeah, and just adding depth there. I mean, we saw last year guys went down with injuries. I mean, the Sun Belt is known for having really tough defensive lines, and you're going to get nicked up. You're going to get banged up. You're already like a big dude wearing knee braces. Things can happen there. So, yeah, I'm sure there's other positions that we need people at, but that O-line, like that's got to be everything for you right now. And one tight end we did not talk about because he missed all of last year's Jalen Butler. He's still on this roster. Expectation is for him to be healthy going into the fall. And we know what an impactful player he can be when he's on the field, especially in that run game. And if you're able to get him on the field at the same time as maybe a more receiving-based tight end, you open up a whole new world of possibilities that we just couldn't do last year because we didn't have the bodies at the tight end position.
Yeah. The other position I'm looking at is punter. We do have Ian Brandt back. But last year we had a very talented punter in Seamus. And it would be nice to have either some competition or some safety net in there at the punter position, because we only have one right now. And you don't want one punter to get hurt and figure out who on the team can kick.
No.
That's a tryout that I would go attend, though. If they said, hey, we're letting anybody on the team that wants to punt go back there, take snaps, and you get 5 punts, I would go watch that.
That would be a great episode, a great live stream if Ricky would allow it.
Oh yeah. Let me see Zach Barlev try to punt the ball. I bet if he got a hold of it, it would go a long way.
I bet you could. I mean, the kid can do a round off. I mean, he was working on the. I don't know if he was working on the back handspring. I think he wants to, but that's a lot of meat, to be.
Yeah,
doing
he's
that.
working on a backflip.
If he could work on that after next season, I'd be.
I was
a little
gonna say,
happier.
like, those knees are too important right now. If you're
Yeah.
listening, Zach.
Well, that head as well. Because if you fail on a backflip, that head is getting hit.
You could hit that
Every-
scorpion.
But yeah, punter is one position I'm kind of keeping my eye on, just because you don't want to have Ian get hurt, and then you're maybe asking the kicker to punt as well.
In one of my NCAA 25, I don't know, the like road to the show type thing, whatever they call it in college football, Ian Brandt was like second team All-American punter one year. So, hey,
Wow.
we got a
You're
sneaky
really good at
All-American.
getting that green thing all the way to the line, right?
Yeah, I don't even do that. I just
And I mean, I don't think we had the emergency break glass and break out Jonathan Plisco as much as we'd like to.
if only he did a year of JUCO.
And then kicker, we're in a much better position because we do have two kickers as of right now. Raleigh Callahan is coming from southeastern Louisiana. He was 17 of 22 last year, 22 of 23 on extra points, which is a very important statistic for us, considering how extra points impacted us last season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, we have Nathaniel Eichner coming back as well. He was the holder this last season. So it's going to be interesting to watch that competition and see who wins. It does sting to lose Ethan Sanchez because he is a very talented kicker. But maybe we can get some more consistency on extra points moving forward.
It hurts my podcast game even more because now I got to figure out how to end each episode. I'm not going to be able to rely on Mr. Sanchez to kick a 50-yard field goal to win every game.
I got a suggestion for you. Fat guy touchdown for the win.
Pick six. That's right.
It's going to happen eventually.
It's probably going to happen before a 50-yard field goal to win the game based upon my track record.
Yeah. You've come close on that, though. And
I got really.
you did have a 50-yarder that ended up being the difference. It just wasn't the walk-off game.
So technically I was right and I can retire it. Technically.
Yes. But I still think we've got those throwback passes to a tackle somewhere deep in the playbook that can be used.
Barlev is athletic enough to do that.
Oh,
And
yeah.
with goal line offense, fumbles are a thing that happen. A fat guy jumping on the ball in the end zone, that counts, right?
Absolutely. We did have some fumble issues last year, so who knows? So,
hey, question. Obviously, position of safety last year was a strong suit of ours with Jerron Manning. Jerron, obviously has moved on. He got a great opportunity after playing his heart out this year. How are we looking there, guys?
They like the additions they've made at safety. You get Patrick Smith-Young back, which makes him the first starter in the secondary to return in 4 seasons. Is that right, Gary?
Yeah. I mean, I'll take that because we've had to fully replace the last couple. Like you give me one back. I mean, this staff has proven that they can reload the secondary year after year. So I kind of trust them in general.
Lucas Struck is a safety from Iowa. He was on the national championship game. I think he was an All-American safety in JUCO. Last All-American safety in JUCO we had was pretty good, Jerron Manning.
Yeah.
So really like his addition. Marco Tyson had a lot of offers. He's another JUCO. He's the JUCO from Memphis that I got to talk to. You can watch that interview on theprideofodu.com or on YouTube. That is everywhere now, I believe.
It is.
And then they added Nikendre Steiger. He goes by Kendre. Me and Aaron got to meet him at a basketball game when he was visiting a few weeks ago.
Super nice guy, man. I'm excited about him.
He was a reserve for Kansas State last year, but he was very he was a second team all conference in JUCO. He hasn't been able to play that much the last couple of years at Kansas State, but we've seen other guys make that transition down to the G5 level, become major contributors for us, and he has the potential to do that as well. We asked him what's his game like, and he goes, "I'm really good in coverage and I love to hit." So
pretty solid there.
but yeah, I think safety, we're doing really well there. The two corners we got, they're very excited about. One is Ronald Jackson from Montana. He started all 14 games for Montana this last season. They think he's going to come in and start at one of the corner positions. The other one is Botros Alessandro. He's a transfer from Purdue, and he's a very tall corner. I think he's 6'1". But I was told this is the best transfer portal addition we've ever had at Old Dominion. And if you think about that, that includes Zach Kuntz and Ollie Jennings, who were very good for us. That's really high praise for this kid. So given that statement, we might see an upgrade at the corner position this season.
I feel like he flew under the radar a little bit because Purdue was so bad this year. But there are definitely some bright spots on that team, and I think he's one of them. But additionally, in that secondary, we may not be bringing back guys who are actually starters, but we bring back more guys that had like actual snaps last year and played in meaningful football games. So like, yes, some of our starters left, but a lot of guys that they were rotating in that you probably didn't even notice, they're back. They're getting another year of development in the program. So the cupboard's not bare, and I think the guys they brought in are going to create some really, really tough competition this spring and this summer for those spots. Like there's probably 7 or 8 guys that could legitimately come in and play any of the corner positions or the safety positions. And that's not something we've had the luxury of in the past few years.
All right, fellas, let's move back to the trenches. We got a question from F Hollywood 757 asking why we feel that the ODU football either chooses not to or has trouble bringing in significant help in the trenches, and if we should shift some focus from JUCO and backfill more potential linemen with FBS experience.
Well, I'll tell you, the portal is very expensive on the offensive line. You look at the NFL, after quarterback, who's the highest paid player in the team? It's usually the tackle, right? And college football is no different. Gary, what were you going to say?
Let's say a lot of like the really good FBS offensive linemen, like they're not going to go in the portal unless they already know they're going to go up to Power 5. Like I feel like that position group in general, the talented, experienced ones that you want are few and far between, and that's why part of the reason why they're so expensive. I would love to see us go get more FBS experience. Like, can I clone Zach Barlev? Can you give me one more Zach Barlev in the portal, 2 more Zach Barlev type players in the portal? Because, I mean, he's been proven to be successful. That should be where we're targeting. But it's a small pond with only a couple fish, and you better put a lot of money on that hook that you set out there.
The thing that I find interesting is it seems like at the skill positions, you see a lot of that E4 talent that hasn't had the opportunity to play for whatever reason that are moving to a G5 to show what they've got. But this year in the trenches, you've almost seen that there's guys that have performed very well at the FCS or even the Division II level who are being highly recruited and are getting NIL offers thrown their way that are coming up that are hot commodities.
I think that COVID era, like, it really messed up some recruiting, and you see some of these guys that got missed coming in, and teams are realizing it now. Like, they're like, all right, well, this guy we missed on 4 years ago has another year left, and we have the money for him. Let's go get him.
Yeah, there was a lot of scouting difficulties for those 2 football seasons. I mean, they were basically they were evaluating some guys based on what they look like as a sophomore playing half their season in JV, and somehow Alabama offered them so they became a 4-star or a 5-star. When in reality, they never panned out above like a 2. Then you have the opposite of that, right? People that fall through the cracks, whatever, and then they go light it up at Kennesaw State, and next thing you know, they're starting for a P5 or P4 program. It's weird. Like, we won't fully shake, I think, the COVID stuff for one more year. Like, one more year, things should normalize. JUCO notwithstanding.
That JUCO ruling is really going to change things. So the other ruling that we have to think about is the scholarship changes and how that's going to impact the spring. They're thinking this might be the most active spring ever because most rosters have to cut down to 105, right? That's the new limit.
Mm-hmm. But the limit's the limit now. This
Right.
can't be like what a lot of schools have done for a long time where, all right, we've got 85 guys on scholarship. Then we have another 30 that are getting an NIL payment equal to a scholarship. You can't do that anymore. So it's going to be funky, but I think this actually is going to help group of 5 schools and hurt the power 4 schools a little bit to where they can't use the shotgun effect to try to go find the best talent. They actually have to hone in and really do some self-scouting on the guys they want to keep.
Yeah, the only thing we need to be worried about is if they go back to the old school route of stashing guys at places like Hargrave or Fuma, which Virginia Tech did a good job of for a while.
Yeah, you'll almost see those partnerships between some schools and certain JUCOs. Like, if you go look at the guys that we just got that are JUCO out of the portal, you're going to see a lot of the same schools over and over. So yeah, I wouldn't be shocked to see that. It's also interesting how many high school kids are going to be driven to JUCO because, like, I'm a 3-star. I've got some group of 5 offers, but if I go light it up with these other guys in the same boat, I know in 1 year or 2 years I can come back and it doesn't count against me anymore. So,
well, and I think the key there is playing and getting seen. Because if you go and you don't play and you're not seen, you're not going to get those particular offers. I mean, it's more interesting and crazier than ever that you've got a guy. I mean, like Pat Conway, if we go back to Pat, I mean, he was an FCS player. You know, he was at Merrimack. But a guy like that comes in and he made all the difference in the world this year to our squad. And you go, where was that guy before? Why was he where he was?
I mean, in one season, he became our second best tight end ever.
Yeah. No. Is it that guy's at the FCS level because of size? Is it that someone thought he wasn't fast enough? Like, where are those guys that clearly can play at this level and make big, big impacts? How do you find those guys?
With the amount of guys playing football around the country, dudes are going to get missed. I mean, it's just pure numbers, right?
That's true.
But I want to go back to the Hutchinson thing. So Cody Cook was hired from Hutchinson. He was the wide receiver coach there last year. He comes in and he brings this offseason, he lands 2 of his receivers. Both very talented receivers. Trying to find there. Ja'Cory Thomas, who's a big-bodied receiver. And then I think the other one's Trey Brown. Yeah. They were in the national championship game against Titus Myers, who we also signed. This is a very, very good JUCO receiver class for us.
This isn't the Bobby Wilder JUCO experiment.
No, I mean, 2 of the 4 JUCO receivers we have in this class were rated among the top 5 JUCO receivers in all of junior college ball. That's amazing that we landed both of them, and it's because of those relationships that Cody Cook was able to build. He recruited those guys to Hutch. So he kept that communication open and landed them here. We finally have size at receiver for the first time in a very long time.
And Justice isn't wrong. There were a number of other fan bases that were upset that Thomas didn't end up there and ended here. So, hey, I like when other fan bases get it.
Yeah, if you can go on ESPN Plus, I think you can still watch the replay of the JUCO National Championship game. We had a lot of players in that game. We had 6. So it's worthwhile to go back and watch that because you can watch Titus Myers, who had a touchdown in that game. Trey Brown, believe, scored a touchdown as
I
well.
think you're right.
And then you had, I think it's Carson Bradley, O-lineman, Lucas Struck. They're all in that game, and it's a good chance to watch them and maybe kind of try to see how they'll fit in with this team moving forward.
I think at the very least, they bring a winning culture with them, right? Even at the JUCO level, it's not easy to get into a national title game. Like, you've got to win a lot of close games. You got to do all those little things. We need as much of that as humanly possible on this roster because we have not had that culture for the last several years.
Well, the one thing that I've grown to appreciate talking to some of these guys that are coming from junior colleges is they truly appreciate what they have here, because the junior college lifestyle for most of them is rough. I mean, they sometimes are in places that just, aren't super inhabitable. They don't have a lot of resources.
And no fans. No fans.
No fans. So when they come to Old Dominion, whether it's a basketball player, like the women's team has a number of junior college players, that the resources that they have here, whether they're the facilities or the academic staff that's helping them, and then obviously the fan base. I mean, they really, really appreciate what they have here, which is nice. It's, we all want the P4 transfer to come here, but the experience of a lot of those guys coming here versus some of these junior college guys that have just bootstrapped it, culturally, as you're talking about that stuff, Gary, can be, very different. Where the JUCO guys can come into the locker room and just be a little more positive than oftentimes, just because they know how good they have it here.
Some of those visiting locker rooms in Last Chance U over the season should tell you, like, that looks worse than my high school when I went to a tiny, horrible little high school that was underfunded. Like, they went and filmed the schools that were probably like the best and the most well-funded, and that was still like, yeah, that's where they're coming from. So it's a little different when you come into SB Ballard and you go into the football facility and see what we have around campus.
Yeah, Greg, I'm right there with you, man. Hungry with talent to be developed. I mean, you can't teach hunger. You can't teach drive. You can't teach an underdog mentality of someone who's going to succeed against all odds. That's either in you or it's not.
I think that JUCO pipeline is how a lot of Group of 5 schools are going to have to survive moving forward. So, like, the ruling definitely helps us. And if we can create that pipeline of like, all right, I'm one of the best JUCO players. I've seen 10 guys go to ODU and they either stay there and get drafted or signed, or they end up doing their last year at a Power 4. That's a win for us. Like, that's something that could be really special for us.
Yeah, the Jerron Manning story has to be told to every JUCO recruit we talk to. Because while it sucks for us to see him moving on, we're happy for him. But at the same time, that's a big selling point to some of these guys, because they want to play P4 ball and they want to get paid. And Jerron made that happen.
There's a route there. There's a process. And there's multiple routes. Whether you're a guy that at a P4 level just didn't have the opportunity, a guy like Ollie Jennings or Zach Kuntz. Obviously, Zach stayed here and Zach graduated from here. Ali went to Virginia Tech. He got that opportunity. Or Jerron coming from JUCO and getting the same type of thing. Like, honestly, as much as it hurts to see those guys leave, everybody is better off for it. As student athletes see that there's a path for them. And, some of them are going to get here and they're going to determine it's the best place for them, even though that they have opportunities somewhere else. And then some of them are going to make that determination they need to go somewhere else because they think it's either going to get them where they want to be in a future career playing football, or they have to for family reasons or whatever.
You're starting to see a shift with some of the players to, like, they're starting to go back to favoring being able to play over just getting a bag because they know that they can get more money down the road. I think you keep seeing that swing back of guys want to go where they get on the field and try to improve their position.
So Justice's comment here, G5 Hive, talks about Ahmad Hardy and UL and Monroe selling that to recruits. There's a story out yesterday. Deshaun Ford committed to Louisiana Monroe, and the big quote from him was, "I want to be the next Ahmad Hardy." So yeah, they're definitely selling that, and it
Hey,
worked
Mike.
out.
So for fans or some more Monarch fans that don't know that story, break it down. You guys break it down in 30 seconds of what that is.
So Ahmad Hardy went to Louisiana Monroe this season. He was a true freshman. He kicked ass, and now he's making a bag. He moved up to the P4 level.
Yeah, he's going to Missouri. Hit 1,300 yards, 13 touchdowns, 5.7 yards per carry on a team that was not supposed to be good, like completely rebuilt team. So if he stood out with that behind that O-line, it's a great story.
I mean,
So
if you believe in yourself, is that a better path than maybe going to a P4 right out of the gate and being buried and not getting an opportunity to play for a couple of years? Maybe that's a new model. I don't know.
It depends on how you're valued. So I don't think Ahmad Hardy came in as a 5-star recruit. Those 5 stars get a little bit more leeway with getting carries and touches as freshmen than a 3-star running back would.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out because there's going to be a push down from these rosters at the Power 4 level with those new roster caps. I mean, I think even the SEC said they're not going to go to 105 right out the gate. It's going to take them a little while to get there. But there's other implications of allotting that many scholarships, and there's a lot of schools in the SEC that don't have any other programs to balance that out. So it's not adding one scholarship to football. I think Coach Ronnie said this. It's adding 2 scholarships to the athletic department.
So yeah, there's obviously a difference in roster caps and scholarships. So and it's going to affect all sports. Like an easy one to talk about, it's not football, but baseball and their scholarship numbers and roster numbers. It's really interesting to think of how that might play out across the country at different levels. Where schools are going to find the money for scholarships if they want to bump them up, and not even just the money, but then what does that do with your numbers of what you have to do to stay compliant?
And you have to think about this. The conferences are setting the limits. So they're talking to the team, the members, and maybe they decide we're going to value baseball moving forward. So we're all going to increase our baseball scholarships. And if you don't have that many, you can't be in this league. So that's an impact as well. Like that's deciding where you have to add.
Yeah. You already see some like parity coming out across the Power 4 ranks, right? Like SEC's fallen off a little bit of a cliff this season. You're starting to see more parity up and down. I think that just continues to spread, but you're going to see it across sport too. You're going to start to see teams come out of nowhere and become a national power in baseball, softball, lacrosse, whatever it is, because like you were saying, Aaron, we're going to be a baseball school now. Like Long Beach State University, I think of them, the Dirtbags, right? You're telling me that they can go from 11.7 baseball scholarships to now they can have like 35 or 40. Like they're going to go after all those scholarships and they're just going to keep World Series every single year. There's a lot of schools that are like that. It's just kind of just an interesting new landscape of how this is all going to play out until I think ultimately the SEC and the Big Ten decide to get married and send everyone else packing.
All right, guys, we're going to go back to the offensive line. We've got a question here. It's really asking about our scheme and whether it's easier to protect the quarterback with those skill sets. Why aren't we better at it?
I disagree with this statement.
Okay. Drop it. Drop some knowledge. Let's see.
The past 4 years, you got to think about who's been at quarterback. We had Hayden Wolf and we had Grant Wilson. The latter never ran. We ran the RPO with a quarterback who never ran, which hurts your offense. It hurts your scheme. And he was kind of a statue for us. Grant Wilson, it's pretty clear the sack problem went away immediately when he was replaced. he was standing in the pocket. He was holding on to the ball too long before he was making a decision to throw. And it led to us being the bottom 5 last year in sacks given up. We had, or I guess top 5 with most given up. We only had 37 or 32 or 36 this year. And I think last year we were in the 60s.
I don't have all that data in front of me for the last 4 years.
That got cut in half by adding in 2 quarterbacks who are good with their feet, with Quinn and Colton. It's more about personnel than it is about. I disagree with that complete statement.
Well, I think there is a point in there, though, in that both of you are hitting on here. Like, we haven't done well with our offensive scheme until this season. So it is hard to recruit offensive linemen to come play from an offense that's not working and continues to not work. So it showed signs of life, and I think we got to where this offense needs to be about 6-7 games in when we started really putting up some points. So now it's going to be a little bit easier to recruit, but it's we had to finally somehow toe that line between getting the right personnel while it being a really difficult place to recruit to. So now I think we're in a better spot, but we have to go repeat it next year to make it a sticking point. We're oh yeah, our offense is good now. You want to come here, because it hasn't been a place that people want to come for the last couple of years.
Yeah, Justice confirming 36 from 62 the previous year. I mean, that's, I don't have my calculator in front of me, but what's that, about a 40% decrease? I mean, that's really significant.
Yeah.
And that wasn't even with Colton or Quinn playing the whole season. I mean, when did Colton start playing? Game 3?
Bowling Green, second half.
Yeah, it started against Tech, had 2 drives, then Bowling Green came in when Grant got hurt later in the game. So,
yeah,
I think that's one of the most important things this year is we cannot wait 4 games to get our offense right. We can't afford to do that. We have to come out swinging. We need to go 2-2 in the non-conference, at least 2-2, if not better. But if we come out and it's 1-3 again and the offense looks bad, it's just not. That's not what you want to see from a team bringing back all of the key players to make the offense go. Right, coach, coordinator, quarterback, got a decent number of linemen back. We got to come out swinging this year on offense.
So here's a question that's asking about schools that don't have football and whether we think that they have an advantage today when it comes to NIL, revenue sharing, scholarships, and so forth. I mean, one thing that people from Virginia might bring up would be, say, VCU. You've seen the headlines that say that VCU is going to pay its basketball players $250,000, $350,000. But
which was a misstatement. A misstatement. They said up to. They didn't say everyone would be paid that much.
Yeah. So the question with regards to non-football schools, do you think they have an advantage, or do you think it's just different?
No, I don't think they have an advantage unless you're just a basketball fan. If you're a basketball fan and you want them to pour all the money into the basketball, that's a big advantage to not having football. But I don't – if you want – obviously, we're talking about football today, right? It's the biggest moneymaker for a reason. I mean, you get the most fans in the building, the biggest donations. Our donations went from $3-4 million a year when we didn't have football to now we're at 20 or 15 to 20 million every year. That's a huge jump.
Yeah. I think it's kind of like the FBS versus FCS conversation. That's what it is, right? If you want to be on the biggest stage, you want the most revenue, you got to go to FBS. You could be perfectly happy in FCS and competing for national titles there and all that, but no one really cares. It's just a different tier. But if you're an FCS football fan, if you're a basketball fan, fantastic. That's great. I don't think they put money into anything else at VCU, but they should put it into their version of football, which is men's basketball.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to have to defer to you on this, Mike, because you know Tennessee, and I do not. I talk about Tennessee having the same problem that we had too often. Receivers not cutting routes.
I thought Nico held onto the ball too long. I thought the play calling was pedestrian to compared to what we've seen from Heupel in years past. This year is very conservative, relied way too much on the running game. And then in the Ohio State game, they did not have their best running back, Dylan Sampson. The one guy you leaned on heavily all season, you didn't have against probably the most talented team in the country. That's not going to be a good combination for you. I want Heupel to get back to being a creative play caller because we did not see that this season.
And then Greg follows that up with sacks, or not just on the O-line. We've talked about that, plenty of times before.
Yeah, 100%, especially in this offense where there are option routes.
Yeah, and Greg, I think you'll notice there is a massive amount of turnover happening in that wide receiver room this year. And part of it is exactly what you're alluding to there with the route running.
Yeah.
All right. So
Hollywood Fred, we're not telling you to watch it because they're our best players. We're telling you to watch it because we have key additions from JUCO.
Yeah.
And now a kid in JUCO is the same amount eligibility-wise as high school, but they're older, they're stronger, and they have more experience. So, I don't hate the ratio right now of JUCO to high school because I think that's the route you're going to go to get more immediate on-field success.
And the nice thing about it is you have the opportunity to be able to see what some of these guys look like coming in.
If we had a bunch of guys playing for IMG, I'd tell you to go watch one of their games. It's no different.
And it's available to everybody on ESPN Plus. Very, very accessible. And that's another reason why to watch it. I mean, there are other dudes that you're going to see in the Sun Belt as well. It's not just our guys.
The number one running back in JUCO was in that game as well. He played for Hutch. I think he committed to Southern Cal. Waymond something. I know Justice knows his name.
Yeah, if you Justice, put that in the chat. Help us out. So, hey, going back to football, obviously we're a team that the run sets up a lot of stuff. Running backs.
There it is, Wayman Jordan.
There you go. Confirmed.
Let's
talk running backs real quick, guys. So what with what we know right now, we'll obviously Aaron Young is graduating. Aaron was a dog for us this year that really came on in the second half once he was more healthy than he had been early. What do you project so far on what we have right now? And do you think that we might see an addition?
Right now, it looks like we're going to be doing a running back by committee approach. We have talent there. You got Bryce Duke returning. You have Devin Roche returning. You have a very talented freshman back in Morky James who's going to start contributing.
Talk about a guy who runs hard. That guy runs the ball hard.
Yeah, we got to see him. Me and you got to see him last in one of the scrimmages before the season. And he made a couple plays that made me immediately a fan of his. He decleated someone on a block out of the backfield. The problem with it, he made the rookie freshman mistake of standing over the dude and letting him know, I'm the one that hit you. Ricky chewed his tail off right after that. But it was a beautiful block. The kid loves contact. And I think he's going to be a very good player for us moving forward. Yeah, I'm excited about him.
Keyshawn's back, right?
What's that?
And then we've got, hold on. I was going to pull up the roster. They're not the only two guys we have back. I mean, three guys, right?
Tariq is back.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Tariq.
Tariq Sims is back. He came on late. I'm excited to see a full healthy year from Devin Roche. He is a really high-level playmaker. He just was not healthy at all last year. Got injured on the opening kickoff of the season.
That first ankle twist, right?
Yeah, just trying to rip his shoe off of him. So I would like to see him because I think he's the type of guy that you can put in the backfield, but then you can motion out to the slot and you can throw a defense off because of his speed. If you somehow match a linebacker on him in motion, he's just going to run a streak because he's going to blow by every linebacker that tries to cover him. And we just weren't able to do that last year because he wasn't healthy. But like he is someone I think could have a massive breakout year next year for us with 1,500 combined receiving rushing yards.
Now, Aaron, you asked if they're going to add anyone. They like these running backs they have on the roster right now. They'll add the right running back, but they're not going to reach on someone just to add someone here. If you look at the churn, you kind of see why they might not add someone just to add someone, because those scholarship numbers, they got to find some scholarships.
Yeah. That makes sense. I mean, that's a good place to be.
Yeah.
I think you might also have some better luck at the running back position after or during the spring portal too. Because I think some guys are going to show up and there's going to be 4 dudes in one backfield and someone's going to be like, I know I'm not going to play. I got to go. And it could be a stud that ends up doing that.
Now, Aaron, I don't know if you want to share the story. We did run into, what was it? Aaron Young's brother recently. And first question I had, well, actually, I don't think you were there. It was me and Justice that ran into him. First thing I said to him was, do you have any more brothers?
That would be nice. I mean, they clearly are Old Dominion royalty when it comes to playing. It'd be nice. Is there? Or a cousin?
Whatever. We got to find more Youngs to come to Old Dominion because both of those guys were ballers for us.
Yeah. And not only great players, but great student athletes with great attitudes, great leaders in the locker room. I mean,
100%.
More guys get like that, the better.
Yeah, we're gonna miss Aaron Young for more than just the on field for sure.
Yeah,
he did. I mean, it's been said before, but him coming to Old Dominion regained his love of football. He had lost that at Rutgers.
Understandable.
All right, Mike, stand by. Okay, this is for you.
All right.
Hollywood 757 wants to know: is it the coaching then?
I don't understand this question.
Hollywood, could you rephrase your question?
I mean,
where exactly? Oh, go ahead, Gary.
I was going to say, obviously there were some coaching issues because how many offensive coordinators and offensive line coaches have we had in the past 4 seasons?
I don't know if I have that many fingers. It's getting close.
Yeah. So, I think that one, the turnover itself creates personnel gaps. If the wrong people were in there recruiting, that creates personnel gaps. So it kind of feeds off of itself. So the little stability we've had, I think, is showing up right now with the quality of talent we have coming back and the stability and the other guys we're going out and getting.
All right. Before Mike answers this, I also want to qualify this question is that we hyped up. You're saying that we hyped up Hayden Wolf and we hyped up Grant Wilson. Is that who you're saying we hyped up? Because I'm not sure I remember those conversations about us hyping those guys up. So just let me know if I'm reading this wrong.
Yeah,
or are you talking about? Go ahead, Gary.
So I did like Grant coming in because he knew the offense and was more mobile than Hayden. I think it became pretty apparent getting the ball out quickly, taking a lot of sacks became a problem. But we definitely hyped up Colton Joseph. And I feel like that was...
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Are we talking about hyping Colton and Quinn? Or are we talking about...
I think he's talking about we've hyped up. He says he's claiming we've hyped up every quarterback.
Well, that's what
I think we're all excited when Grant took over because he was offering us something that we thought Hayden should have been doing all along, and that was running the ball on those RPOs.
Which, in all fairness, he did take it to another level,
right.
Not to where we want to be, but there was improvement there.
Right, and we were excited about the potential there. The potential just didn't come.
I think he's on a delay.
Yeah.
Maybe. Probably social media connections or my Wi-Fi still not showing up on it too.
Gotcha. But he does believe that we need more aggressiveness in recruiting, play calling, etc.
Yeah. I think you have to be ruthless in recruiting now. Like, if you can get someone that upgrades a position on your roster, you have to go get them. Like you can't be like, nah, we're going to develop these 3 guys. Like that just doesn't happen anymore. You get occasional surprises, but you've got to be ruthless going out there.
Because 2 of those 3 guys are likely to not even be back the following year.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
it's hard. I mean, that's a challenge to go. Like you can't bet on not having your dudes, but at the same time, you can't bet on having all of your dudes. Like, there's a significant amount of the roster that won't be back, but which ones are they? Are they the true impact makers? I'm sure it's always been super difficult to be a coach at this level, but it's just way different now. Like, and it's the speed of which the change has occurred and is occurring is just, growing. It's almost like a mobile phone, technology. It's just incremental in the change speed.
We went from dial-up internet where you could transfer once, sit out a year, and be a grad transfer to the fastest fiber internet you've ever had in your life. And we did it like that because the NCAA refused to change their rules, refused to listen. They refused to do all of these things. And then court cases and lawsuits forced it. So it went from, we're going to hold this line forever and ever and never think to like adjust. And then the dam broke. And now we are where we are. Like we're in this position because the NCAA dug their heels in for decades, when if they would have had some flexibility and actually been smart, we could have much better guidelines and parameters than this Wild West free for all we have now. But
does that go all the way back to Ed O'Bannon?
Yeah. It has to, right?
They're so afraid of being sued now that they're just rolling over on everything. And you're kind of like, where does that stop?
It's not going to stop anytime soon until we have a collective bargaining agreement.
Yep.
There was another potential lawsuit that was mentioned the other day on Twitter by a lawyer, Darren Heitner, and he's saying that portal windows are not fair trade. So he's preparing a lawsuit against the NCAA to get rid of portal windows. So we could have guys transferring in week 6 and be on another team in week 7 if that goes through. And considering what Justice just said here, they'll probably lose that lawsuit too.
Well, that just, that potentially just speeds up decisions on whether these guys are student athletes or they're not. Because if you're doing that, like what college student is it sustainable to leave mid-semester because you don't complete classes, you don't complete credits, and you're not eligible? Like, at what point there's,
Yeah, it's funny. Like the academic side has always been seen as like the roadblock for so much stuff, and everyone's been like, "Oh, we hate this on the academic side." But the academic side is the only thing keeping this remotely on the rails right now. The first school that says, well, we'll figure out your credits. You just come on over here. We want you to play on Saturday. The first school that does that, that's
floodgates.
It's going to be pickup football every weekend. Like, hey, Bama, you're on a bye. As your backup quarterback wants some reps. We're playing App State this weekend. Come on. So like the academic side is the only thing that is holding this train even remotely on this.
It'll end up being like, soccer overseas in the Premier League of having guys get lent out to other schools.
Yeah.
They're under contract at Alabama, but they're playing the season at Coastal Carolina to get them experience.
Create the farm system.
But they can recall them at any point that they want.
Yeah,
it's funny because a year ago we would have said this is all stupid, but the way that things are going, you're like, well, what?
They needed CBA. That's just what it is.
Yeah. And the players need it too, because the average NIL agent, who I could be an NIL agent tomorrow if someone wants to sign with me, they're taking up to 15, 20% when, and the pros are getting 2-3. Maybe
hey,
5.
Hollywood, are you laughing, crying at yourself? Because I spent more time talking about Pat Conroy over the last 3 episodes, who was an FCS guy. It's like, let's at least be realistic here. So we're talking about guys coming in. Are you talking about us with FCS, or are you talking about the coaching staff? Because I guarantee you the coaching staff is looking at the FCS ranks as well. But they're finding the talent right now at the JUCO level.
We do have two transfers from FCS right now. Ronald Jackson, who we already talked about, and Ryan Joyce from Fordham, who we already talked about.
Which are all in written stuff that you've put out, Mike. It's all there.
Yeah, I don't understand. We have more JUCO guys signed than we have FCS guys signed. So why wouldn't we spend more time on JUCO than FCS? The numbers support us talking about JUCO more because there's more to talk about.
Well, Jim, I mean, those guys were freshmen last year. One a redshirt freshman and one a true freshman who really didn't have many reps until Grant got hurt. So, I mean, obviously that they're working with the team and they're doing their off-season workouts, and they probably have quarterback coaches, and they're, working nonstop to improve those sorts of things.
I mean, we talked about one thing with Colton that he fixed in mid-season, and that was where he was
in the pocket.
Yeah, his first step before, what that was a problem was it was backwards.
That's right.
Next game, all of his steps were up into the pocket. So
which is encouraging.
They're always
apply stuff that's going on, coaching real time, to be able to put that into action in the very next opportunity.
Yeah, so the work is always going on.
I think the big thing for both of them this offseason is watching a ton of film. Like, growing here more than anywhere else. Now that you've gotten some reps, you've seen what the game speed looks like. You've seen things play out. Like, I know they are watching a boatload of film, both of themselves, but also of other quarterbacks that have done well across college through Exos. Like, that film study this time of year is almost more important than actually getting reps at the moment. So I think that's the big thing for them, is like how they take that big IQ step forward. Like, we saw them both grow, but that film study, I think, is the big thing they're working on right now.
And the second thing they need to be working on with all of these new receivers is chemistry. We've seen it in years past. When guys have good chemistry with the receiver, they end up leaning on that receiver again and again. Go back all the way to 2016 and why we were good that year. And it's because of the chemistry between David Washington and Zach Pascal. Last year, the chemistry between Colton and Conroy. If they can build that chemistry, we're going to be in a better position next season.
Cool. Well, guys, we've been going for a while, so I think we need to start wrapping this up. But before we do that, there are basketball games this weekend at home. This week at home. I think the guys are at home twice, so the women might be home on Wednesday. I'm not sure. I have to look it up. So
they're home against App State, 6:30 on Wednesday.
There are 3 opportunities to get out to Chartway. Obviously, the women are playing well. They're 12-5 now, I think, something like that. Right. Just beating Marshall at home the other day, and then obviously the guys are coming off a road trip where they just won 2 games. And the last game being at South Alabama, a team that has been playing very good basketball and has been, throttling teams recently.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the impact it has on attendance, because while we have good attendance for the Sun Belt, a lot of seats we see during games. And they've been on a little bit of a run here lately. They're 4-1 in conference.
They won 6 out of their last 8 games. I'm hopeful that we'll have students back now that the semester started back up. So we'll get that hopefully filling back up. But over the Christmas break, fans have been pretty good. I know that Mike Jones has been very complimentary of the fan base, and obviously it's a symbiotic relationship. The team playing well and winning helps bring fans out and helps energize fans, and likewise fans help the team. But these guys are getting a little bit better each and every game, and things are starting to get a little exciting. There's a lot to come out for, and obviously the women are playing well, so they're trying to earn earn, you people coming out and buying tickets to come see them. I mean, they really are working hard, and the coaching staff and Delisha, it means a lot to them. So 3 opportunities this week to get out there.
And this App State team that's coming in just throttled GMU.
That's right, Eva. And we appreciate your support on social media and everything. And I'm sure we'll see you there. Gary, real quick. Have you guys heard anything on this yet?
Negotiations ongoing was the last update I got probably about a week ago. We'll see if we get some more info this week coming out about which ballparks for the home Sunbelt series. Everything else is on the road, but still TBD. I think that's tough to work out.
I wouldn't be surprised if at the baseball banquet, that's one of the big things they unveil.
Yep.
Which we'll be at. So from a content perspective, I know myself, Mike, CB will be there. Gary's going to be stuck up in Richmond, so he won't be able to be down. So I will try to fill in for you, Gary, with CB to talk to some of the players and start priming the pump with some content before you guys hit it this spring with Hudson Homers. So hopefully we'll find out something there. And if case, that's the case, we'll certainly let the fans know. It's going to be a interesting season for those guys as road dogs, and having that us against the world mentality, just constantly being on the road. Should be interesting.
All right.
Any parting shots, guys, before we call it a day and go watch the Commanders win tonight?
Fred, if we make you this mad listening to us, maybe.
Oh my God.
Did I miss another comment?
No, it was the whole
okay.
chat long.
Oh,
you wanted to argue with us.
Gotcha.
I don't know. If something made me this mad listening to, I don't know if I would listen to it.
We enjoyed it too, Justice. We appreciate you as always, man. And I know that we'll see you this week at the ball games. I don't know if that's true, Greg, but
definitely
you're very
not for
welcome. Now,
I think Aaron and Gary maybe fit that category, but not me. But we really appreciate your support. Thank you for joining us.
Join the collective if you haven't, theprideofodu.com. And we'll see you guys this week at Chartway.
And if anyone likes basketball and they're a good writer, let us know. We're always looking for new people to put out content. So if you or someone that's interested, reach out.
Awesome. Until next time, fellas, go Monarchs.
Go Monarchs.
Go Monarchs.